Buyurun. Sayın Meclis Başkanı,
Distinguished Speaker of the Parliament,
Yargıtay
distinguished
değerli
Chair
misafirler,
of the Court of Cassation,
yüksek yargı
distinguished
organlarımızın
guests,
kıymetli başkanları,
distinguished chairs of our
adalet teşkilatımızın saygıdeğer mensupları,
judiciary bodies,
sizleri
esteemed
en kalbi
members of our
duygularla,
judicial system,
muhabbetle selamlıyorum.
I would like to greet you all with my deepest regards.
2020-2021
Taking this opportunity, I also would like to wish that the 2020-2021 judicial year will be auspicious, not just for our country and our nation, but for the entire members of the judicial system. In the new judicial year, I wish every success to our judges, our public prosecutors, our lawyers, and everyone working at the judicial system. And also taking this opportunity, I offer my condolences for those who lost their lives while serving within the judicial system. For thousands of years, we have lost many souls, many martyrs who put their lives on the line for our country, for the future of our nation, for the peace and security of our nation. Many people are working day and night, and I would like to also take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to them. And I hope that God will spare all sorts of disasters from our country, and hopefully all our struggles will end up in triumphs. Esteemed guests, on the walls of our courtrooms there is an inscription that says, "Justice is the basis of property." And this is usually attributed to Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab. And this inscription goes to tell us that states do not thrive on troops, on money, on oil, on industry, but that states thrive on justice. Because once you establish justice, once justice is served, everything else will actually follow suit. And the state, the country, and the nation will prosper. At every stage throughout history, justice has been a pivotal concept, a very contentious concept, and this is the very reason why. When we look at the Holy Quran and when we look at interpretations in our religion, we see the importance of being judicious, being just, and being fair. All of these points are always emphasized. When we look at Surah Al-Araf, we see that God tells us to be just. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, it is stated that God favors those who are just. In our Friday prayers every week, Surah An-Nahl, in the 90th verse, it is stated as thus: "Indeed, Allah orders justice and good conduct and giving to relatives, and forbids immorality and bad conduct and oppression." When we look at important statesmen and important people who were engaged in important battles all throughout history, we see that all of them, without exception, were quite sensitive about justice. When we look at philosophers who have shed light on humanity, again, they speak of justice as the most important virtue, as the food of nations. This is the important role that you are all engaged in. Our judges, prosecutors, lawyers, and everyone serving in the judicial system, I believe, are cognizant of the importance of this high responsibility. This is a vital matter that also puts huge responsibilities on the shoulders of those who carry it. Every public office is important, obviously, but when you work for the establishment of justice, you have an even more significant responsibility on your shoulders. I would like to also take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to everyone who shoulders this responsibility on behalf of myself, on behalf of my nation. You deserve our appreciation. Dear guests, justice is vitally important for humanity and for our future. But when we look at four corners of our world, we see the voice, the cry of the downtrodden, the oppressed. And this is a huge contradiction that needs to be addressed. Certain people, certain countries see themselves as large and invincible, affluent, and unfortunately they are cruel towards other nations, and this can no longer be clouded by diplomacy or political discourse. Only certain societies have democracy, security, and welfare in the world, and others are expected to serve them, but this distorted understanding has now been revealed for what it is. In the far corners of the world, people are crying for justice, and their demand for justice is flourishing. And Turkey is the spokesperson of this demand, and at every platform we express demand for justice. From the General Assembly of the United Nations, we called out to the representatives of 200 nations in the hall. We said the world is larger than five, and this objection is one of the most concrete and striking examples of this understanding. From Syria to Libya, in every place that we are actively present in, we adhere to this ethos. In the Eastern Mediterranean, in the Aegean, everything that we do is based on this demand for justice. Turkey has a size of 780,000 kilometers, and some people, because of a 10-kilometer island, try to shut us down, and this is a testament, an abject testament of injustice. Our country has a right in the riches of the Mediterranean, and those who try to shut us down exhibit an example of modern colonialism. All throughout history, a particular state always hid behind others, and certain countries are using this country as a pretext in order to fulfill their own goals. And again, this is injustice. We are sick and tired of this shadow play. This particular country that can do no good for itself cannot stop a regional power like Turkey, and these efforts are now beginning to look comical. For centuries, from Africa to South America, these countries colonized and massacred nations and oppressed people, but their end is coming to an end. Their era is coming to an end. No matter what they do, they will not be able to stamp down this cry for justice. Turkey is a trailblazer in this area, not just on behalf of herself, but on behalf of all the oppressed. We have a history of 600 years as the Ottoman Empire, and our republic was built on the ashes of the Ottoman Empire, and we have been in this homeland for millennia, and we will take ownership of this homeland. Our civilization and our history bestows upon us a heritage. We will take it to the next level, and we will bequeath a large, just, and affluent country to our next generations. And for this, we work day and night. Every success of Turkey, every accomplishment of Turkey is a light of hope for our brothers and sisters all across the nation. Our strength does not come from thinking and caring about ourselves only and working for ourselves only, but from this wide support that is behind us. That is why we always open our doors to everyone who is in pursuit of peace and security in the region. And that is why we always mobilize our resources whenever there's a cry from anywhere in the world. And that's why at every platform we raise demands for justice as best as we can. And as a reward for this honest attitude, God always opens our way and frustrates the plans of those who try to thwart our efforts. And no matter what they do, they will not be able to stop us. Our national anthem starts with the motto, "Fear not," and ends with the line, "For freedom is the absolute right of my God-worshipping nation, and there is no power that can make us turn back from this holy march." Those who appreciate Turkey's friendship will increase in number day by day, so long as we can stand tall and strong amongst ourselves, so long as we stand in harmony and unison as a nation, so long as we make sure that our state prospers on a platform of justice, so long as we do not compromise from our values, which are our trademark, so long as we take ownership of our history and our civilization. The rest will come, the rest will follow suit, and difficulties, hardships will turn into ease, and animosity will turn into friendship. Of that we are sure. Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, there are only a handful of nations who have such a rich history of statehood as us. There are 16 states represented in our presidential flag, and there are many other states that we established all across history. In Anatolia, after Battle of Manzikert, it started with the Seljuks and continued with other principalities, and then this was culminated with the Ottoman Empire, and now we have our republic. Our last 2 centuries in this geography witnessed great losses as well as great triumphs, and a search for new administrative means. From the Tanzimat reforms to the constitutionalism, many steps were taken, and then modern administration system originated in Europe, and we wanted to adapt this according to our needs, and the proclamation of the Republic is a culmination of that. And the Ottoman Empire experience was put on the shelf, and we experienced certain problems during the era of the Republic. After multi-party system was adopted, we were exposed to coups, juntas, and memorandums, and this brought about hefty political, social, and economic costs. When we look at the developed nations, when they prospered, unfortunately, we were engaged in backbiting and infighting, and we missed many an opportunity. The oppression of tutelage curbed our progress in democracy, in industry, and as a result, sadly, we wasted our energy and our time, and we were not fully able to create an alignment between the state and the nation, the members of the public. This was a long and winding road, and after this period, a new administrative system was adopted, and we were able to accomplish a leap, thankfully. Thanks to the executive presidential system, now the checks and balances between the judiciary, executive, and legislative branches are much better delineated. We will not allow any power than the will of the nation triumph, and in this new system everyone focuses on their own remit. At times of coups, there were contentious pictures and practices, and they are now a thing of the past. In this new era, we are reaping the political, economic, and military fruits of our efforts, and we are highly resistant towards all sorts of attacks, and now we have the power to unleash our true power. Without a doubt, in this picture, when we look at this picture, we see the importance of ceaseless reforms that we implemented in the last 18 years. The judicial branch is one of the areas where these reforms were implemented intensively. Our objective is to achieve a reliable and accessible judicial system that is well endowed with its different bodies and rules. At every step we take, we bear in mind the importance of advancement of democracy and personal rights and liberties. Within this vision, we prepared a strategic document for judicial reform, and last year we shared this document with our nation. In this document, there are certain policies, and all of these policies were devised with the participation of all the relevant NGOs, and the results of the previous reforms were also taken into account, as well as needs of today and needs of the future. And when we were drafting this document, we also kept a close eye on recent practices in the world. We didn't just prepare this document, but we also take the necessary steps to implement fully and with speed things that are outlined in this report. As the executive branch, we did what we were supposed to do, and the legislative branch enacted this. And the judicial system has now started adopting this. Even this picture goes to show how efficient the new executive presidential system is, and how speedily and how in a decisive manner we can now take steps. Dear friends, last year the first judicial package was enacted, and in criminal justice system we introduced many changes, and we took many steps so that a better service can be rendered to our citizens, and also to reduce the workload of the judicial system. We established new judicial bodies, and we looked at certain procedural arrangements that are used internationally, and we adopted them in our system, and we looked at certain practices such as simple judicial processes or serial deliberations, and we will implement them in the future if we deem fit. In order to strengthen basic rights and liberties, we open the way for appeals for crimes that have been determined by courts of appeal. Now these will be taken to the Court of Cassation. In terms of internet crimes, we made it possible for individual web pages to be restricted, and this precluded us from shutting down entire websites. And we also designated maximum detention periods during investigation in a bid to protect especially children. For victims of sexual violence, we made it compulsory for special interview rooms to be used. And also we made it compulsory for those who wish to serve as judges, prosecutors, lawyers, to sit a central exam before they are appointed. We also offered the opportunity of special passports, green passports, to lawyers who have served for 15 years. And we made it possible for IT systems to be used in administrative judicial hearings. With the second judicial package, we revised the execution system. We reviewed periods, probation practices, and special procedures, and procedures regarding good behavior. Outside the realm of this package, we also focused on criminal law, and we also focused on improving investment environment. And the law of obligations has been revamped in a bid to protect the interests of those who are indebted and those for debtors and indebtors. And we also increased alternative dispute resolution methods, and we also increased the efficiency of investigations. The Board of Judges and Prosecutors established a new set of ethical rules, and this was shared with the public as well. And in order to avoid repeated mistakes, we created a new unit to focus on the decisions of the Constitutional Court as well as the European Court of Human Rights. Regarding legal disputes, a new legislation has been adopted. Our expectation is to make sure that thanks to this measure, judicial proceedings will be completed in a shorter while. We are still working on the Human Rights Action Plan, and we are hoping to finalize those efforts within this year. This plan will further strengthen our legal system, and both within Turkey and internationally, we will be able to solve many problems that we are currently encountering. Dear guests, just like everywhere else in a judicial system, what matters is the human element. In the past, we had many hurdles in our judicial system, and one of the biggest reasons for that was the lack of workforce, human capital, starting with courts of first instance all the way up to the Court of Cassation. And after the 15th of July coup attempt, within the Ministry of Justice, many expulsions took place. But before that, the number of judges and prosecutors, which stood at 9,349 in 2002, has increased all the way up to 22,000 as of today. When we look at the total number of staff at our ministry, again, the number increased from 51,681 all the way up to 150,000. As such, we were able to make sure that our judges and public prosecutors can work much more efficiently, and that our judicial system can work and function much more efficiently and at a higher standard. The establishment of courts of appeal is one of the most important judicial reforms in the history of our republic. In the judicial system in 2016, in the administrative judicial system, 2017 was the starting year for courts of appeals, and this reduced the backlog and the workload of our judges and prosecutors. Thanks to the electronic notification system, we are saving our resources, and again, this has made our system much more efficient. The right not to be defamed is a new principle that we have adopted of late. People cannot be defamed by unfounded complaints, and we also implemented this right to not be defamed. Notaries on demand and notaries at consulates were made possible, and that has made it more convenient for our citizens to obtain the documents that they need. And we will continue to work to make sure that our judicial system functions properly with all its bodies and rules. But at this stage, I would like to say a few words about our lawyers and bar associations, which are their professional bodies. I'd like to underscore something that gives me discomfort. Mehmet Selim Kiraz, our martyred public prosecutor, was assassinated by a terrorist organization, and a certain lawyer went to hunger strike to support those terrorists, and nevertheless the state did whatever it could to dissuade these lawyers from these hunger strikes. But despite that, persistently, one lawyer continued their hunger strike, and then they passed away, and after their passing away, a sign was put on the Istanbul Bar Association, and I think this is a disgrace and disrespect when we bear in mind that we have a martyr which was assassinated by this terrorist organization. Some lawyers went to the funeral of these terrorists in their judicial gowns, and this behavior cannot be condoned, cannot be accepted. Being a lawyer is not defending oppression. Being a lawyer is being a pioneer of justice and always siding with justice. What was done here cannot be explained with the relationship between the lawyer and the client. It is quite evident indeed. If in other bodies, other organizations, if there are people who affiliate themselves with terrorist organizations, if these people are shut out from such organizations, then the same thing, the same rule should be applied to lawyers. A lawyer that defends a drug trafficker is not necessarily a drug trafficker. A lawyer that defends a murderer or a thief cannot be expected to engage in thievery and murder. So a lawyer defending a terrorist cannot be engaged in terrorism. And whatever the public prosecutors, judges, police officers do not do, then lawyers should refrain from doing such things. And if they do, there should be a ramification, an implication, a price for that. In no country in the world would you have such, I'm talking about civilized countries, would you have such a distorted picture. That can never be allowed. No component of the judicial system can serve a particular ideology. The only ideology of the judicial system should be justice, should be being fair. Bar associations are supposed to be a body of justice, but sadly some of them have become the background for terrorist organizations. They are armed for propaganda and a pretext for unlawful activities, and this is quite disturbing. And one of the reasons why we introduced the multiple bar associations was to save our bar associations from this problematic structure. The late Mehmet Selim Kiraz, our slain prosecutors, assassins, and recent developments surrounding them have shown that our concerns are well justified. Hopefully, in the upcoming period, we are going to do whatever we can to stop this bloody path that stems from lawyers to terrorists. With these sentiments, and I would like to offer my condolences to Mehmet Selim Kiraz's family, and I do hope that the 2020-2021 judicial year will be auspicious for all parties involved, and I wish every success to our judges, prosecutors, lawyers, and everyone working at our judicial system, and all our citizens who go to courthouses. I wish them every ease. May God always be with them and help them. And I would like to greet you all with my deepest regards once again. Thank you very much indeed.
Cumhurbaşkanımız Sayın Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'a hitaplarından dolayı çok teşekkür ediyoruz efendim. Değerli misafirlerimiz, programımız burada sona eriyor. Yeni adli yılın her şart ve her dönemde fazilet timsali hukukçularımız için, tüm yargı camiamız ve elbette milletimiz için hayırlı olmasını diliyor. Katılımlarınız için her birinize ayrı ayrı teşekkür ediyoruz efendim. Ayaklarınıza sağlık.